The version 2.5 banners for Wuthering Waves were revealed during the livestream last Friday, and I'm betting that you guys are wondering who would be the most efficient pull for your account. So I'm going to be giving my opinions on every single one of the characters coming in version 2.5, starting of course with the star of the show and our new character, Phrolova. Phrolova is a Havoc Rectifier main DPS character, who focuses on abusing echo mechanics, as well as having damage even when she's off-field thanks to the Hecate Echo. I'll say this right off the bat, I think Phrolova is going to have one of the most unique playstyles in the entire game. Based on what we've seen, Phrolova is not only going to be doing a lot of damage while she's on the field, but also a lot of damage while she's not on the field, because she is capable of summoning the Hecate thanks to her Resonance Liberation, and the Hecate will persist even when she is off-field. Unlike regular coordinated attacks like those of Zhezia or Cantarella, Phrolova's Hecate is its own entity. And unlike coordinated attacks, they do not need something to be triggered. Hecate will just attack on its own. However, it has two versions of attacks, being a normal basic attack, and then an enhanced attack, which will trigger whenever an ally uses echo skills. This means that Phrolova is obviously going to have synergy with characters who have multiple echo skills within their own kit. Obviously, every single character has access to at least one echo in the form of their primary echo skill. But Cantarella and Roccia, who are some of the other characters in this update, have additional echo skills thanks to abilities in their kit, especially Cantarella. But unlike recent DPS characters, Phrolova doesn't seem to actually need these characters in order to perform well. Cantarella is definitely a character I do recommend getting for your Phrolova if you want to see her performing at a high level. However, if we're talking about Roccia, I think she's incredibly easy to replace. For the exact details, you're gonna have to refer to the Roccia segment, which is after this, because right now I wanna just focus on Phrolova herself. Phrolova being a Havoc DPS means she has the advantage of being able to take advantage of one of the best 4-stars in the game, being Don Jin. And obviously, Shorekeeper and Verena are Shorekeeper and Verena, so they're always going to be good characters. So it seems like Phrolova is going to be quite easy to just get away with running Don Jin and one of the generalist healers. You do not need her premium team. Rather, I would like to point attention to the fact that her first rotation is going to be incredibly weak. Like I said before, Hecate is going to be a large part of Phrolova's damage output, but you need to use her Liberation at the end of her rotation in order to summon Hecate, meaning that the very first Phrolova rotation that you do is going to be quite weak. And this matters a lot in game modes such as Tower of Adversity. But outside of this point, I think that Phrolova is going to be a very efficient pull. She's probably going to end up being the new best Havoc DPS, as well as the fact that she has pretty good teammate options outside of her premium team. But since Phrolova seems to be focusing a lot on echo damage, I feel like they're gonna try and gate her a bit more by making her weapon incredibly powerful for her. So I think Phrolova is looking to be a very efficient pull for now. Next up is going to be the character that's running alongside Phrolova, being Roccia. And honestly, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, Roccia is by far the most replaceable character in the entire game. Despite the fact that with Phrolova she's going to be best in slot in two separate teams, being the Phrolova team as well as the Camellia team, she is so easy to replace in both of these that I have an incredibly hard time recommending anyone to pull Roccia. I've already talked about Don Jin and Shorekeeper in the Phrolova section, but now I'm going to be going a bit more in depth in it, because what Roccia provides to the Phrolova team is really not that impressive. She is buffing Cantarella, whose damage output isn't even that high in the first place, giving a pretty okay team-wide buff of 200 attack, and then of course her own personal damage. But, well, while that might all seem nice and dandy, Shorekeeper has a faster rotation and is able to buff your Phrolova more. And considering the fact that Phrolova is going to be most of the team's damage output, I'm a little bit concerned about your need for Roccia in this team. She is by far the easiest to replace within the Phrolova team if you just have Shorekeeper or Verena. And even in her second team, being with Camellia, she is quite easy to replace. This is because, well, her competition is Sanhua. And if you know anything about Sanhua, you're gonna know that that is rough. Sanhua has one of the fastest rotation in the game, is able to match Roccia's 200 attack buff with her S6, and also just has an incredibly similar Ultra skill. And while Sanhua's personal damage is not as high as that of Roccia, her rotation time is just so much faster. So even in the Camellia team, she's incredibly easy to replace. And she becomes even easier to replace if you don't have Roccia's signature weapon. So honestly, I can really only recommend pulling Roccia if you're a Havoc mega fan who wants to have the absolute best team for all their Havoc characters. But if you're not like that, honestly, I would just skip her. Now it's time to talk about the third character this update, being the second Brant rerun. He just keeps coming back, doesn't he? Not only does he keep coming back, he's also the only non-Havoc character running this patch. I think they looked at his purple flames and mistook him for a Havoc character. That's the only way I can justify him sneaking in here. But that aside, I think Brant is a pretty good character, but he definitely has some challenges in front of him. So first of all, let's talk about his strengths. Brant has a very diverse selection of teams. Obviously, he has his best in slot use case, being in the triple fusion team alongside Lupa and Chong-Li. But this is far from his only use case, because Brant, being the funny guy he is, has a pretty good outro skill considering how many characters are able to take advantage of it. He buffs fusion damage and skill damage, and lucky for him, those are some of the most common attributes in the game. When it comes to buffing fusion damage, there is obviously the fusion trio of himself, Chong-Li, and Lupa. But aside from that team, he's also the best in slot buffer for Roccia, who thanks to Lupa is actually a pretty respectable carry now. Outside of this, Brant is also a very powerful buffer when it comes to buffing Encore, because Encore does do a pretty decent amount of skill damage, and obviously she is a fusion character. Aside from those goobers, Brant being able to buff skills also makes him a very good teammate for Jinshi and Carlotta, and while he may not be the best in slot for either of those, he's a pretty good contender. Now normally all of this would not be that remarkable, but Brant also has some of the highest personal damage in the entire game when it comes to the sub DPS class. While he does trade this massive damage output for having a longer than average rotation, the damage output still makes it very worth it. His anchor is a nuclear bomb that will absolutely decimate any wave you put it against, and if you're able to abuse something like chat cancel or the utility wheel, you'll be able to nuke multiple waves of Whimpering Wastes with this. So this means that Brant is a pretty competent buffer for any skill or fusion DPS, and even aside from this, Brant can be pretty good as a main DPS himself. Obviously, it's not going to compete to some of the actually intended main DPS characters. You're not going to see him pull out the performance of a Jinshi or a Phoebe, but it's definitely solid enough to the point where I can actually call it a pro. The one thing that I will say is very unfortunate about him is that Brant is very hard to actually build. He needs a lot of energy regen, to the point where if you do not get his signature, you're not even able to run his signature set. Getting 250 ER is just an incredible challenge for a character who also wants to build damage. But as long as you're completely willing to get his signature weapon and put in the work to build him, he's going to get you very good results. So I'd say Brant is a very good pull. And then finally, it's time to talk about Cantarella. Cantarella is a character who I famously thought was really bad. So now it's good to see that her time of reckoning has finally come, because she finally has an actually good team in which she is the best in slot character. Only took you a while there, Cantarella, but at least you finally made it. Cantarella is more integral to the Phrolova team than Roccia could ever be. Roccia only has one echo skill in her kit, meanwhile Cantarella has 3. Cantarella also has an incredibly strong outro skill for Phrolova. Based on the way Frolova's kit works, I'm assuming that most of her damage while she is on the field is going to be counting as skill damage, meaning that Cantarella's outro skill would be absolutely perfect for Phrolova. This, combined with Cantarella's inherent echo skill mechanics within her own kit, means that she is going to be the best buffer for Phrolova by quite a large margin. So if you want to invest into your Phrolova, Cantarella is going to be a very good pickup. But that's kinda where the positives end for her. Cantarella doesn't really have a use case outside of the Phrolova team, so she's being carried by Phrolova's mechanics. Cantarella has one of the longest rotations out of any sub-DPS in the entire game, and her damage output doesn't reflect how long her rotation is. She also has some of the worst energy regeneration out of any sub-DPS, which makes the energy requirements for every single DPS she runs with way higher than normal. And if that wasn't enough, in the hands of a not very skilled player, Cantarella is very easy to interrupt. So all of this comes out to one singular fact. Cantarella is simply a disappointing character when you put her outside of the scenario with Phrolova. And thus, I think she's not really that valuable of a character. I think out of all of the banner characters, Phrolova has the highest value. She has pretty flexible teammate options, and as a main DPS, she is one of the most valuable roles your account can have. So I think she's the best pickup. Next would be Brant. Brant has a lot of teams in which he's a pretty good option, and he also has a bunch of teams where he is the best option. But a bunch of those teams require Lupa to be in your team as well. So assuming you have Lupa, Brant is going to be an excellent pickup. But if you don't have Lupa, I mean, he's still going to be good because you can run him as a main DPS. But his main DPS team isn't going to be as good as, let's say, a low investment Phrolova team. So that's why I'm putting Phrolova above him. Next up would be Cantarella. Cantarella does have a best-in-slot team, but she only has one team. So I don't think she's that valuable unless you specifically want her for your Phrolova. And then the lowest priority is going to be Roccia. While she has more best-in-slot teams than Cantarella does, she isn't really integral to either of these teams and is easy to replace, meaning that I believe she is the lowest value character within this update. But what do you think of these banners? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord, which is linked in the description below. If you just want to see more of me, you can also check out my second channel, which is linked in the description below. I primarily talk about punishing Grey Raven, but I'm just gonna make videos about whatever I'm passionate about. But that'll be all from me. Peace.